Well, the risen Brandon Collins looks to attempt to try to rise to the challenge. That is the Southern Brute.
The Southern Brute, Chris Mason, undefeated here in the Coastal Wrestling Federation. And he's got a victory over Brandon Collins. That victory, Darion, you may remember, it came last month when Justin Flo, he hired Chris Mason to take his spot. Justin Flo was supposed to take on Brandon Collins. And then Justin Flo came up, gave a light slap to Chris Mason, and Chris Mason got DQ'd and he got the victory.
Hey, get the win however you got to get it.
Referee checking our competitors here, and the bell is rung, and here we go. And you got to thank Chris Mason, the odds-on favorite here, going up against Brandon Collins.
I mean, look at these two. Look at him and look at Brandon.
Brandon Collins not intimidated by Chris Mason. Both men have gone under the tutelage of Simon Phillips, and I got to wonder, why was Chris Mason, in cahoots in any way, shape, or form with Justin Flo if he's a disciple of Simon Phillips?
A check is a check. He's got bills to pay for himself. It ain't personal. It's just business.
Just business here. Collar and elbow tie-up, and you just see the strength advantage of the Southern Brute on display.
Why would he initiate a lockup anyway? Does someone have twice his size? Excuse me.
Brandon Collins, he has had victories over much bigger opponents before, was able to get a victory over KJ Impala, who's about the same height and weight as Chris Mason. Chris Mason, as we said, undefeated here in the Coastal Wrestling Federation. Going to remain undefeated if Brandon Collins keeps resorting to strategies like that.
Like, why does he... Like, he was under the tutelage of Simon Phillips. Apparently, he hasn't learned anything, because why does he keep going for this? Why? He knows he is outmatched in the strength department.
Matched out, dude. But one thing that he excels at is that speed. But that significant weight advantage of Chris Mason is, well, an advantage. I mean, how do you move something that big? Chris Mason barely breaking a sweat here.
There's a certain strategy you need to do, but right now, Brandon Collins is not doing it.
Brandon Collins instead is trying to break the hold of Chris Mason. Chris Mason just trying to break Brandon Collins. There you see that speed and agility. Drop kick from Brandon Collins onto Chris Mason, sends him crashing
Still hasn't
into the
left his
corner.
feet yet.
No, he has not left his feet at all.
What is he doing? He's smiling. He needs to stay on.
Chris Mason up and over to the outside. Very well scouted by Brandon Collins. Brandon Collins using his head and his feet. Jumping over. Oh! And Chris Mason had him scouted. Mason now getting back into the ring, breaking the 10 count.
This is why you do not leave your feet.
Chris Mason has not left his feet this matchup so far. Going to try to end it here quick. Hooking the leg. Brandon Collins able to power out. Brandon Collins, he had a shot at the title at CWF Warfare against Simon Phillips. Yes, he lost. He gets a win here over the undefeated Chris Mason. He's going to be back in line for a title shot. You got to think down the road. Chris Mason very high.
He needs to get in gear.
Crossbody onto Chris Mason. Wasn't enough. No.
The first time in this match that the big man left his feet wasn't quite enough.
That's a victory in and of itself. Heck, if you're able to leave the ring on your own power. Wait a minute. Going for a submission hold here.
A different approach, going for the triangle hold.
That'll make any man tap if you lock it in right. And you see Chris Mason shaking the left arm there. I think a little damage might have been done, but you got to wonder how much damage was done to Brandon. Oh,
and we could barely see it on our side, but I think I heard the referee say that Chris Mason had a choke to get out of that triangle hold.
Missing with that devastating chop. One chop would have chopped Brandon Collins in half almost. Brandon Collins attacking the meaty chest.
Shots that are normally painful did nothing to him.
Light bumblebee stings at best, but you saw just one chop from Chris Mason knock Brandon Collins out. Go to the pin, no! And, as I said, Darion, you've taken on men that were bigger than you, that were taller than you, stronger than you. What do you want to see Brandon do here to try to get the upset here?
First things first, you need to chop the tree down and make sure it doesn't get up. You need to stay away from his strikes at all costs.
Not staying away from those shoulder tackles in the corner. And just tossing the Risen One across the ring like dirty laundry.
What is with you and dirty laundry, Donnie?
It's a metaphor. It's a turn of phrase.
You make your mama cry a lot, don't you? Like she yelled at you.
My mother is very proud of me,
life.
thank you.
Not on laundry day.
I do my own laundry.
Oh, of course you do.
I fold my underwear and everything.
That's why you have that bright-ass jacket, isn't it?
Oh, it's a nice jacket. It's brand new. Anyways, what's not brand new is the animosity between these two. Jawbreaker now into Chris Mason from Brandon Collins. Laying in those strikes to the head. Going to gain some momentum, bouncing off the ropes, crossbody, and gets caught by Chris Mason for his troubles. Brandon Collins in a very precarious situation here, swinging the legs. Not going to do him any good.
All-the-way slam, halfway across the... Not even halfway, all the way across the ring.
Mason going to try to end it here. No! Brandon Collins able to kick out. Still to come, our main event. And it was said if Simon Phillips doesn't show up, then Justin Flo wins by default. Right now, trying to get Chris Mason here, trying to get his win here, call it a night.
Sometimes those default wins go a long way. Ask anybody who wrestles in high school.
That's probably how you got most of your wins in high school wrestling, wasn't it?
They can't fight if they don't show up.
Flo Enterprises said something about slash tires for Simon Phillips.
People have tire problems. I had tire problems this morning.
Right now, a man who's having plenty of problems is Brandon Collins with that size, that almost size 20 foot.
200 plus pounds on the head of Brandon Collins.
I dare say Chris Mason is almost at the 250 mark. Right now, leaving a mark on the back, the spine of Brandon Collins. Brandon Collins, as we said, just not the odds-on favorite here. I mean, no one is. I don't even think you could take down that man, Darion.
Hold on now, Donnie. Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Chris Mason going to try to end it here with another display of strength. Brandon Collins able to jump out of it.
Use the speed.
Using those kicks to the breadbasket of Chris Mason. Chris Mason catching him, though. Has him in the full Nelson. Full Nelson slam right in the middle of the ring. I think that does it. No! Brandon Collins has, as his nickname implies, risen again. And now at this point, Chris Mason is probably thinking, what do I have to do? Normally they're dead by now.
Unfortunately, right now, frustration is going to, sooner or later, frustration is going to set in, and that is not what Brandon wants to happen. He's being dominated already. Imagine what's going to happen when the big man starts getting angry.
I don't want to think about that at all. Brandon Collins back to his feet. Boot to the head. Chris Mason
still
on
standing.
shaky ground. Still caught him, turning around, slamming it down the mat, hugging the leg. Is it over? No!
There he is right now. There he is getting frustrated.
And now the big man is angry and pissed off. Brandon Collins being the recipient of that anger.
Exactly right there. That's exactly what Brandon did not want to happen. You don't want a big man like that angry.
Chris Mason not one to hold back, but now that he's angry, he's just going to be hitting even harder. Brandon Collins trying to lay in a few hard strikes of his own, doing a little bit of damage, but the big man's still on his feet. Catching Brandon Collins. Brandon Collins perched up, but still laying in those strikes. has the big man on the middle rope. If Brandon Collins has a moment, it is now. On the outside, and a kick to the head. Sends Chris Mason to the mat. He's on his back. Brandon Collins leading with the elbow drop. Connected with the elbow drop. It's now or never, Brandon. No!
Where's that Brandon's last shot?
It could very well have been. Connected with the kick, got the air, connected with the elbow onto the chest, but it was not enough.
It was an
Chris
elbow
Mason
drop.
still in this, still undefeated.
Connected with the elbow drop. Usually it's a frog splash. You got to think, would this match be over if it was that?
Snapmare from Chris Mason onto Brandon Collins. Chris Mason picking up speed, misses with that boot. Schoolboy onto Chris Mason. No, Chris Mason still able to kick out. Clothesline from Chris Mason onto Brandon Collins.
Nearly decapitated him.
Chris Mason
But
just.
right, he can't capitalize right now.
Chris Mason going to try to
There,
capitalize.
Brandon's got him in it.
Wait a
Another
minute.
triangle.
He's got him in the triangle. He's got the submission.
No, that's an Ogoplata.
He has that submission locked in good and tight. Referee checking on him. Is Chris Mason going to tap? Is he going to tap for the very first time? Oh wait, does he have Brandon pinned?
The Ogoplata
Nobody's
locked in.
picking
No,
him
he's
up.
straight up.
Slamming him down and he breaks the hold.
Right
But
back
Brandon
in.
ignores it and he has the hold locked in again. Is the man gonna tap? Is Chris Mason gonna tap? Is his undefeated streak over? Wait a minute. Did Chris Mason tap? Or did he pin him? I can't tell from this vantage point. Chris Mason picking him up again, and Chris Mason back down. That submission hold locked in good and tight. He got it. Did he get him? Wait, I think I saw Chris Mason tap. I'm not sure who won. I gotta check with the referee. I saw him tap, but he had him pinned.
We're trying to get the verdict for this match.
Your winner via pinfall, Chris Mason.
Chris Mason, the Southern Brute, stays undefeated 1-on-1.
Well, that's the official word. I saw Chris Mason tapping the mat, but he was able to hold Brandon Collins' shoulders to the mat while he was tapping. Referee didn't see Chris Mason tapping, and so Chris Mason gets the victory via pinfall.
I'm about to say, if the ref doesn't see it, did it really happen?
It didn't happen as far as the record books are concerned. Wait a minute, Brandon wanting the mic now.
Please damn you. I had you beat, Chris Mason. You tapped. You keep cheating. You keep playing. Now I really want to pin you. I'm going to be the first man to pin you. It's going to happen in June at Defiance.
Oh.
See you then, you cheating bitch.
Well, Brandon Collins defeated but not demoralized, laying out the challenge for Chris Mason, who remains undefeated. These two going to settle their issues in June. Wait a minute. Chris has something to say.
Let's see here. You weren't ready for me last month. Nope. Guess what? The record book says this month, Chris Mason defeats Brandon Collins by pinfall. So that means you weren't ready for me this month either. Nope. You really think 2 months is going to make a difference? Nope. I promise you it's not. Even these people have given up on you. They don't even like me, they like me more than you. Here's the thing, you want another shot at me? That's fine, because nobody on this roster, including you, can beat me 1-on-1.
So far, that is true.
He said no
I'm
more
the
mic.
winner of this match. He's the loser. Therefore, I get the last word.
He did tap. Chris Mason here still has the mic. I'm not gonna try to take it from him.
Well, as a reminder, the ruling was Chris Mason wins via pinfall, and that was pretty square.
Chris Mason still undefeated. Guess these two will finally settle all their differences in June. Can't wait for that match.